Welcome to week one of our family dinner series. Today's is titled So Great Dinner Date. We're going to take a look at Revelations 3, verse 20. It says, "Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and we will share a meal together as friends." I love this verse because you have to get the picture of Jesus, who is the door, but yet he stands at the door of our hearts and knocks and invites us in. And if we would open the door and allow him in, we can enter into great fellowship with him. And there's such great power that comes in being in that relational, that fellowship relation with him at the dinner table like you would with your family.
Yeah, awesome stuff. What a concept that
Yeah.
we can have a personal relationship and personal interactions with the God of the universe and the incredible person of Jesus Christ. So that is very special stuff.
Yep. So in just a moment, we'll take a second and we'll look at 5 reasons to rejoice over dinner with Jesus.
So 5 reasons to rejoice over dinner with Jesus. The first reason, his presence means he accepts me as I am. And this is really life-changing if we can wrap our minds around this. So often we think we need to kind of clean up and present ourselves in some sort of holy way or be something we're not before we can come to God or before we can come to church. And yet we see here in Mark 2:15 through 16, where Jesus is going to a tax collector's house, and tax collectors didn't have a good reputation, were not liked or appreciated by the Jewish people. And he was hanging out with other unsavory people. And then the religious people got on to Jesus for that. They didn't understand why he would do that. And they said, "Why does he eat with such scum?" But that actually gives me comfort.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is willing to hang around with people who have a bad reputation, people who aren't perfect, people who have made mistakes. And I know I'm one of those people. So it's great to know that his presence means he accepts me as I am.
Yeah, because I grew up believing, you had to get yourself ready for Jesus, but that's not true. Jesus wants us to come as we are, and he accepts us as we are. So discuss this. There is joy in knowing Jesus accepts me, even though he knows everything about me. Point number 2 is his presence means I don't have to live in fear. And Isaiah 41:10 says, "Don't be afraid, for I am with you." And we're also going to look at Matthew 6:25 through 26. And basically here he's saying that we don't worry because God provides everything. He provides for the birds and they don't have to worry. So why should we worry? And man, it is easy. The easiest thing for us to do is to get fearful because we forget to rely on the Lord sometimes.
Yeah, and there's a difference, I think, between concern over situations that we may need to have concern over and worry. Worry leads to inaction and fear and a kind of paralysis, whereas concern says, okay, I need to get into action and I need to rely on maybe other believers to help with things and certainly go to God in prayer. So Jesus is telling us you don't have to be controlled by worry or fear, and he will help us with our concerns.
Yep. So do you have situations in your life that you have allowed fear to hinder you from accomplishing what God desires for you to do?
Point number 3, what is so awesome about being able to have a relationship with Jesus. His presence means I already have everything I could ever need. And of course, Psalm 23, verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. And we've been in the book of Revelation throughout this, and this is where Jesus has to kind of call out some of the churches and confront them with things and teach them and correct them. And he corrects the church of Laodicea here, and he says, you say I am rich, I have everything I want, I don't need a thing. And I think sometimes we confuse our wants with what we really need.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as even in the case of this church, we confuse material blessings with spiritual blessings. And Jesus reminds us they're very different. And he says, look, buy my kind of gold, buy my kind of garments. And he's talking about the kind of treasure that will last forever and that will satisfy the soul.
Yeah, and I love this picture because if you look at the relationship between a sheep and the shepherd, the sheep are totally dependent upon him for sustenance, for protection, for guidance. So is there an area in your life, maybe even areas that you think you have it all under control, but is there an area in your life that you need to learn to depend upon God and Jesus for direction, for protection, and for guidance? Number 4, his presence means everything will work together for good. Romans 8:28. It's a very familiar verse. It says, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Now, you can look at this verse and you might say that he is referring to every one of our day-to-day situations. But ultimately, God is talking about the finish, what's going to happen in the end. For those of us that trust him, in the end, it all works together because we will be spending time in his presence for eternity.
Yeah, that's a great point. And sometimes we want to believe, oh, well, everything is good then. Once we have a relationship with God, there is no bad. But that's not what this verse is saying at all. And of course, that's not what we see in the Gospels and anywhere in Scripture. There are still a lot of bad things, and we're going to experience trouble, and we're going to experience hardship. But God has this miraculous way of using all of that to point us to him and to get us on purpose, as this verse says, and to be able to experience him in a way that is good.
Yeah. So describe why knowing Christ in this way, does it bring you peace? Yes or no?
Point number 5, his presence means I am loved beyond measure. And I really want to encourage you to take some time with Ephesians 3:17 through 19, where Paul is really trying to explain how profound it is, how profound God's love is for us. And God's love reaches everywhere. And I know we all struggle with maybe feeling unlovable, or maybe something in the past, or something we're struggling with now. God surely can't love me through that. And yet Paul tells us that God's love is wide and long and high and deep. And so his love is beyond any way we could measure it in a human way. And there's great peace in just being able to realize, okay, yeah, maybe I'm really not lovable from a human standpoint, but in God's love, he loves me beyond measure.
Beyond measure. So are there areas in your life where you don't find rest and you don't find peace because you have not fully accepted the love that God has for you that is beyond measure?